Hey everybody, the purpose of this video is to get you some solutions to this quiz on Sigalert speeds on Highway 405 in Los Angeles. So I went ahead and entered all the data into the TI here. First thing I ask you to do is to do your histogram. So we'll show you how to do that. We'll grab this plot 1. Let's see, we want a histogram. Yep, that's perfect actually. Zoom 9. Okay, I'm going to mess with the window a little bit just because, let's see, it's got to go in 56 to 91. I'll go 55 to 95, although I think 95 is probably extreme. We'll just go to 90. See what this looks like. All right, that's, that's about as good as it's going to get. You can get more micro if you want to. You can break up the bars by 4. I'm going through this kind of quickly because you guys would have seen this in the videos earlier that I placed in the variability homework, where I showed you kind of how to do all this. I asked you to add labels to do better than your TI. So what I wanted you to do, really, if you're using your TI, is to make sure that you correctly are able to know what the x-axis is and what the y-axis is. So, in other words, here we'll do something real quick here. We'll just go ahead and grab the screen. You can also get around this by simply using. Just delete that. There we go. There's your TI. This is kind of ghetto, but we'll get across here. So on the horizontal axis, this is actually speeds. That's going to be way too big. This is going to be speeds in miles per hour. That's a cute little font. I have no idea what that font is. I guess it's Tempest Sans ITC. So you got speeds in miles per hour here. And then I asked you to also add some numbers, which I think is a good idea to do as well. And since the TI does a terrible job at this, I'm going to go ahead and add them in for it. So you got 55 here. All right. And then I believe I had this. I have going by 4s, don't I? Yeah. So the next one's going to be 59, and so forth. Although I moved that, it's a little too close. You can see the clunkiness of doing this with a TI. 59. Some people, they simply 63. They simply just hand draw this on their papers, and that's fine too. You could also take a cell phone picture of it and then add numbers to it, or you could just use Excel, which that's another option. So anyway, just continue that all the way across. As far as the y-axis, up on the y-axis, this is actually number of cars, and that's the y-axis. Now, as far as where you want to label them, I've seen people label the axis itself, which is totally fine. I believe, based on how I did this number here is 0. I'd actually have to go back to look at the TI to find out. Let's turn it back on. What's the window? I'm going to change one thing real quick here. X scale 5. I won't change the graph all that much. Okay, so now this is 5. So this bar right here is essentially 5. So you can get an idea of what the scale needs to be. So we can do a 5 right about here. And then a 10 right about here, and so forth and so on. So you just gotta have to label it correctly with a nice scale. So there's your histogram. All right, so let's get back into this. Calculate the mean and standard deviation. Fairly straightforward. We're gonna run 1 bar stats on this stuff. Stat calc, and it's all in L1, so 1 bar stats is pretty straightforward. We got an average of about 68.7 or about 69 miles an hour. Plus or minus about 6. And then it says identify any outliers using outside of 2 standard deviations. I'm going to use an old trick we learned a while ago. X bar minus 2 S's. And what this does is it gives us a low end. So anything below 56 miles an hour is going to be considered a low outlier. So that's what I'm asking you to do when I say make sure to show me the endpoints of 2 standard deviations. The first one's 56 miles an hour. And the next one, I'm going to change this to a plus, is above 81. So anything below 56 and anything above 81. Now, one thing you can do to make this a little bit easier is to sort the data ascending. And now when you go back and look at it, okay, so 56 is exactly at the end point. So it's up to you if you want to include that or not. I'm going to call that equal and say it's not outside of the range, it's inside the range. And then at the other end, I'll go this way, it's probably quicker. We have an 86, which if I remember correctly is over, yes, it's over 81. Was that the only one we had? Was that 86? Yeah, next one down is 75. So to identify any outliers, there is one outlier. The car going 86 is too fast by the other 95% of the data. So that's the one outlier there. Next question, is it appropriate to use two standard deviations rule? That's up to you to decide. I look at that thing and I see roughly a bell curve. Some people will call it too skewed, in which case you would say no. I say yes because it looks to be a bell curve and I can live with that. It says now add the modified box plot. All right, so we're going to come back here and do that by turning a second plot on. You may have to mess with the axes a little bit. Oops. All right, I'm just going to hit graph. Oh, there it is. Look at that right there. And then we can be fancy by taking a new snip. Whoops. Let's try that again by having the TI out. Taking a new snip of that box plot. Wah. Copy it. Bring it in here. Drop it on top. And scooch it on in. There you go. So it's also identifying that 86 or whatever that was, 86 miles an hour as the outlier. For sure it is. And you can actually trace over to it if you wanted to. If you hit trace and then you pop up onto the box plot, it's going to allow you to scooch. And there it is, 86. So it's going to tell you that's the outlier. And I believe that's the next question is add the modified. Yeah, okay, that's all I have to do is add the modified. What do you think? Are these cars averaging 65? Your call, really, as to whether you think they are or not. There are other tools we can use statistically, but you can look at the median and say the median 69, which means half the cars are going over 69. Lower quartile 65, that means 75% of the cars are going above 65 miles an hour, so only 25 are going less. That's kind of hard to imagine that is. So the median 69, so is the average. So, I mean, I say they're speeding. Whether or not it's a ticketable offense, you'd have to ask a police officer, but they're definitely speeding by the definition of faster than 65. So, anyway, I hope this gets you some good answers for this quiz, and we'll see you in class.